Coming up, Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright. Plus, Aaron Murray is on the show, former Georgia quarterback. We'll talk about the current Georgia quarterback, Stetson Bennett. That's coming up in an hour and 10 minutes. OutKick 360 rolls on. Paul and I both enjoyed the home run derby. I'm with him. It felt long towards the end. I wanted it to hurry up so the Jeter episode 1 would start. But, had it not been leading into that, I'm probably not complaining about the length of the derby last night. It was good.
Yeah, and had I won my bet,
yeah, I know,
I would have been less upset. Rodriguez, fantastic with and the fact that he was going first, so he could put a number out there and have somebody catch him instead of just needing to beat a number and being able to drop his bat. I think made it more compelling. His pitcher also was the best. Pitching Ninja, an account I mention a lot on Twitter, has one superimposed thing of 6 pitches, all as they reach the plate, clumped together, and it's less than the size of a basketball. He was phenomenal at putting the ball right where Julio wanted it, right? High and inside. And when he was throwing them high and inside, he was having a field day, just getting in a rhythm and ringing them off. The numbers also, I was watching more the StatCast telecast on ESPN2, which had good and bad about it. But his volume in the first 2 rounds, he was getting way more pitches. Like he would get 47 pitches or in the 40s when other guys were getting 27. So their rhythm was fantastic, and he wasn't tiring out.
Who was it? And this is
when Soto won.
I'm thinking about this because you watched a different broadcast. I wasn't a fan of last night's broadcast for 2 reasons, and I'll start with the second first. I'm going to work my way back to my main reason. But first, I felt like last year they had someone on the color commentary that was so precise on. They would say Alonso needs to get to 24. If he can get to 24 with 1:30 left, he's got a shot to catch him. And then take a timeout here. I would take it. There was none of that last night that they had a year ago, and I don't know how they switched it up or who was in that seat, but I thought it was lacking that, and they need to abide by the rules. I realize this is a home run derby I'm complaining about.
But the timing is a problem.
The timing where the rules are, when the ball is hit, the ball that the batter just hit, it has to hit the ground or go over the fence before the ball must come down before the next pitch is thrown.
And there's an ump standing back there who gives the pitcher a hand up and then a point.
Well, from a broadcast standpoint, I don't think people understand. Watching it and then calling it are 2 different things. And Carl Ravitch was trying everything he could.
It's a struggle.
But if you're trying to find out if the 17th homer is in fact a home run or it's going to the wall at the warning track, while also the pitcher is now throwing, while that's in the air, you've got the next pitch going to the plate. You're looking back and forth, and
you need a spotter, somebody in your ear telling you it's going.
Juan Soto won it with a bat flip, and I think Ravitch thought he had just tied it.
Yeah.
Instead of won it.
Because he knows it's off the bat, but you're looking for the ball to see if it goes. Yeah, and the StatCast. It made it just
awkward. You just can't. There's not a smooth way to make that happen unless you're abiding by that rule.
On the StatCast, they had a box that showed it's a blue square for a miss and a red square with an HR in it for everyone that goes. But that also is behind because they need to make sure it's whatever, and the count might be accurate, but that box might not be accurate. It's a little choppy, and they're not enforcing it. And when it's a bet-on thing, I think there were 1 or 2 home runs that also were allowed, like at the end of a clock. I think our guy, Ravel, was bitching about it. He's saying there's millions of dollars on this, and you got to be precise with that.
And both were underdogs, of course, but one was plus 750, your guy.
Yeah, I would have.
And then Soto was plus 450, I believe. So I mean, there's a big gap there.
And on the StatCast, it was driving me crazy. Look, I'm always going to have complaints about the broadcast because that's who I am. Jason Benetti and Mike Petriello were good. Jessica Mendoza, who I generally like, was really hamming it up with the two people that were against Pujols early. I can't remember who lost to him in the first. And then she's really hamming it up with Soto, who's a big fan of Pujols. Pujols was his hero. And she kept saying, she said it at least 3 times, you have to wonder, does he really want to beat his hero? Does he really want to beat him? And these guys were trying to tamper down, but Teresa and I are both saying, bleep, yes, he wants to beat him. It's a competitive situation. There's money at stake. He wants to get to the finals. There's a big trophy. There's a lot of honor in it. This is ridiculous. Stop saying it.
Pujols, I don't think he'd make it through another round. His right arm was cramping up, and he was just there for the swan song wave and goodbye.
And they're also showing too much of him while the balls are flying out. I want to see the balls flying out.
I'm with you.
He gave away his gloves after the first round. He had to go get them back from somebody's little kid.
We didn't have Berman, though. Paul's
he was
happy
in the
about
pregame.
that. Oh, he's there?
Yes.
Ryan Brown is
scared.
next. We'll go live to Atlanta at SEC Media Days. Quarterbacks coming up. We've got Mike Wright, quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores, in 20 minutes. Former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray on the show today in an hour. OutKick 360 rolls on as we broadcast live in Nashville, Tennessee. Glad you're with us wherever you may be listening or watching today. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer, Old Smoky Moonshine. Withrow back with us next week alongside PK Hutton here and another quarterback of Next Round Live. Is joining us right now, Ryan Brown. Alabama making the rounds today. No Show knows that program better than the Next Round, which you can catch each morning starting at 9 a.m. Central on any social media platform. Ryan, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Boys, what's happening, man? And when you started with the quarterback, I'm like, did I sit down at the wrong table? Because never played the position.
Hey, you had the guy. You had Bryce Young on earlier, I believe, today. News and notes from that. I mean, you have the Heisman Trophy winner returning with the Crimson Tide, trying to win the championship, not just get there.
You know, I thought one of the most interesting things from him, first of all, he's just a really chill, soft-spoken guy. I mean, for a guy that had the season he had and, you know, has made the money he's made in NIL deals and won the Heisman. And, you know, PK would know more about this, but, you know, might be the first overall or top 10 draft pick. You know, I mean, this is a really cool, humble kid. I mean, he does not exude that type of person. He's just the type of guy you'd kind of like to sit and chop it up with. And he did that with us. And I thought the most impressive thing he said, you know, Alabama's going to have a lot of new parts on that offense that have come through the transfer portal, both as likely top receivers. One transfer from Georgia and Jermaine Burton, KT Arrell from Louisville. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back that will start behind him, transferred in from Georgia Tech. So and then one of his offensive linemen from Vanderbilt. And we asked him about that and about, you know, meshing those guys in and making them feel comfortable. And he said, you know, a lot of people look at them and say it's their responsibility. In truth, it's my responsibility. I've got to be the leader of the offense. I've got to make them feel as comfortable and prepared as possible. And I just thought that showed a lot of maturity from a guy that, you know, exudes that. He exudes a lot of maturity. But I think that's the interesting storyline with him and this Alabama offense is how many of these guys weren't even part of this team 1 year ago.
Where would you rank him, Ryan, on the quarterbacks that Saban has had with expectations going into a year? Is he the unquestioned number one guy on a list of several in recent years?
Yeah, in terms of expectation, yeah. You know, we had that discussion on our show today. Where does he rank in Alabama history? Because he is Alabama's first Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But he also hasn't won a national championship. And at Alabama, you know, if you don't win a national championship as a quarterback, you don't really, I mean, I hate to say it, but you don't really rank. You know, Tua's kind of complicated because he didn't win one as a starter wire to wire, but they absolutely don't win one without him coming off the bench at halftime. So he kind of gets, you know, some credit for that one. A.J. McCarron won a couple. But to me, Bryce Young is the best quarterback Alabama has ever had. I mean, he was phenomenal last year. And look, I'm a Dolphins fan, so you know I love me some Tua, and I loved him when he was at Alabama. But he was playing with a room full of NFL wide receivers. And, you know, while Jamison Williams and John Mechie both got drafted, obviously, I don't think anybody would say to you that Bryce Young was playing with the same level of talent.
Right.
And listen, we're talking about Alabama talent, so the fall-off's not huge, but the same level of talent that even Tua Tagovailoa was. So, you know, I think he could potentially be the greatest quarterback in Alabama history, but he's probably got to win a national championship to secure that.
You should readjust your expectations and be rooting for Tom Brady to be your quarterback next year if you're a Dolphins
He'll take that.
Oh, I would. Well, I mean, look, you know this. If he can't succeed with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, there will be somebody else playing quarterback there next year, and I'm okay with that.
How surprised were you to see Arch Manning pick a future SEC team, but not a current SEC team when he made his decision?
You know, I wasn't surprised as much that it was Texas. Let me say it this way, Paul. I wasn't stunned it wasn't Alabama because Alabama had gone and gotten a commit from Eli Holstein, who was a top 10 quarterback who was out of the state of Louisiana. So when you got that commitment, and they have since, by the way, added, I think, 24/7 and On3 have them both 8th and 9th in the country. So they've got those two quarterbacks. So when they were taking other quarterbacks, it was a pretty good indication they weren't getting Arch Manning. So I wasn't surprised he didn't pick Alabama. It looked like it came down to Texas and Georgia. And there's a lot to like about Georgia, but one thing about Georgia is Kirby has been hesitant to open up that offense. He just has not really, they just haven't had an offense that matches what even Alabama has done, and they really haven't had to. They haven't been forced to by anybody in the East to do that. So you look at what Sark has done with quarterbacks, and it kind of made sense for him to go to Texas. And I think he just kind of wanted to blaze his own trail and not be, not be Tennessee, not be Ole Miss, maybe not even be a traditional SEC school. So I wasn't blown away that Texas. I always kind of felt like Sarkisian and Texas would win that battle.
Ryan Brown with us, Next Round Live, the show. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Brown Live. It's Alabama, Georgia, and who else? Who's third right now to you in the conference?
Well, a lot of your viewers and listeners are going to love this answer, but I have convinced myself. And now let me preface what I'm about to say. That last year I convinced myself Ole Miss would go 10-2, and they in fact went 10-2.
Yep.
So I should also follow up and say the likelihood of me doing this in consecutive years is very, very low.
Is this is this Lance's lock?
I don't know. I think Lance actually does agree with this, by the way. But I am going to say Tennessee goes 10-2 this year. I think the Vols lose only to Georgia and Alabama, and I think that Alabama game's got potential. Well, I mean, if my prediction is correct, that's going to be two undefeated teams playing at Neyland Stadium. The week after, by the way, Alabama plays that emotional game against Texas A&M. I think, and I was a huge critic, I will own this, that I was a huge critic of the Heupel hire. I thought it was lazy and uninspired, and I thought he did a really good job, especially at the end of last year. Maybe got quarterback wrong early. I've convinced myself Tennessee's 10-2. So if they're 10-2 and they only lose to Bama and Georgia, that's your number 3 team in the SEC.
Last time they won 10 games, 2007.
Yeah,
it has been a while.
Last time they were in Atlanta, right?
Yep.
Is that those not match up? Yeah.
Do you see the offense?
Crazy it's been that long.
Do you see the offense carrying the defense for them to get there, or you see the defense being better maybe than a lot of people imagine?
Well, I mean, I'm basing this a lot. Oh, first of all, I very much like Hendon Hooker. I think the way he ended the season last year, Paul, he was playing tremendous football. So, you start there. I just think by nature of the way that offense goes, by nature of the fact that they are running that many plays at that rapid of a pace, it's going to naturally put your defense in a little bit of a jam. So, yeah, I mean, I think the offense would probably carry the defense in that aspect. But you got to understand, anymore, I think you can't look at points per game. You got to look at points per possession, points per opponent possession, or points per plays that a team has run. And if Tennessee's defense can keep that stat down, maybe points per game look a little out of whack, but their opponents are going to get a lot of possessions because Tennessee, they can go 3 and out quickly or they can score quickly. So naturally, you're going to get more possessions playing them. So I think when you look at points per game at the end of the year, maybe that Tennessee defense doesn't look great, but they'll do enough with that offense, I think, to be 10-2.
The battle for 2 and 3 in each division is going to be fascinating because of the quarterbacks. Well, I'll pick up on Hendon Hooker, but what a difference a year makes. This year feels more like a throwback SEC media days in some ways because of the quarterbacks on display with Bryce Young, Mike Wright, Hendon Hooker, Will Levis will be there tomorrow, KJ Jefferson, Stetson Bennett. I mean, I wasn't rattling off 7 or 8 guys at this time last year, and now they've played to a level where they can now achieve more than maybe expectations were like for them 12 months ago. That to me really signals the depth of the conference, even though we still know the cream of the crop, Alabama and Georgia.
What's crazy though is you mentioned Will Levis, and I don't know what PK has heard, but I've talked to somebody that I trust very much in the league that says this isn't just media hype, that they've talked to teams that have this guy at the top of their quarterback board.
He has the strongest arm. I mean, to me, he's at the top of that list.
But so explain to me, I mean, and this is something that is difficult to figure out. Let's assume for a moment, you get the same defense from Mark Stoops that you normally get. All right. Let's assume that. And Will Levis plays to a top 10 NFL draft pick level. I'm probably wrong about Tennessee. I mean, how does Kentucky not at least factor into the East somehow if both those things occur? I mean, it's kind of hard for both those things to happen and them, be a 7-win team.
To answer that, it comes down to which quarterback is the contender versus pretender, right? If Hendon Hooker has the type of year you're talking about, I'm fascinated to find out where he ends up in the draft, right? There are some questions in the East. Paul, we didn't even touch on what was going on in the West, but behind Bryce Young, there's a nice crop of young quarterbacks there. So I had a column where we had a big topic last year about, man, what has happened to the depth at quarterback in this conference? And due to the transfer portal and other things, we now have an answer to that, which is it's very competitive for the first time in a while.
If you're liking Tennessee the way you are and you've got a good feeling about Will Levis, where does that leave you with Florida?
Well, especially at the quarterback position, I think Anthony Richardson is a fascinating study. There are people that really like him, but there are times he's been badly inconsistent. I'll tell you an image of him that it's difficult for me to shake. And, some of your viewers may not have seen this, and I get that. But last year in the Alabama game, he was unavailable. So they could not use him. Now, Florida played right in that game. They had every opportunity. It came down to a 2-point conversion to potentially beat Alabama in that game. But he was unavailable in the game. And at halftime, Alabama jumped out to a big lead, and then Florida closed the gap. At halftime, he's doing like backflips going to the locker room. Like, how can you not be available because of injury, but you could do backflips going to the locker room? Those images are hard for me to shake when it comes to a quarterback, because that then leads to the question of how much you actually want to be on the field. But look, under Billy Napier, he's going to have to be out on the field. I just don't know that roster is good enough to support him. Maybe he's the type of quarterback that a lot of people think he is, which would factor into that NFL draft talk. I just don't know, with the recruiting of Dan Mullen, that Billy Napier's got the roster around him to actually support that type. I think they're more of like a 6-7 win team in Napier's first year.
You know Auburn well, and you know what it was like behind the scenes with the coup that tried to get Harsin out of there. It didn't work. Harsin, to his credit, also tried to get the Oregon job. Where do things end there, Ryan? I mean, I think we know what's going to happen this year with Auburn. Maybe we don't. I'm talking record-wise. Yeah. But are we seeing do we already know the end result, or do you think behind closed doors, if we ask Brian Harsin, hey man, long term, you want to be at Auburn? Would he actually say, yeah, I want to be here, they don't want me here? Or would he say, I'd like a parachute somewhere?
Well, I mean, there is a parachute in that contract, and that's the whole reason he is still there, by the way, was they just could not cough up the 75% of the remaining contract to fire him. And without that type of buyout, he probably gets fired last year. They just couldn't justify it. I mean, it is literally the multi-million-dollar question in this state. What does it take for him to save his job? Because if you're going to fire him after year one, you're ready to fire him in year two as well. He didn't do anything in the offseason that makes you think, oh, if anything, he might have added fuel to the fire, because he was the one that actually won. I mean, power boosters went against him and he won. That's pretty rare in college football. So, if anything, those guys, they do not like being wrong. They do not like not getting their ways. So I don't even know what the magic number is. A lot of people say 8-4, but I always say to that, you got to tell me who are the four and how do those games go?
Right.
I mean, they obviously the Iron Bowl's at the end of the year. If Alabama wins by 35 and that's one of your 4 losses, that leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. Look, I mean, I think it comes down to the obvious games. They're playing Alabama and Georgia, both on the road. They're going to be underdogs in both those games. So it's going to come down to how you do against Mississippi State, who beat you last year, Arkansas, LSU, the same old teams from the West. They play Penn State out of conference. My gut tells me 8-4. He's okay. 7-5. It's a toss-up. 6-6. They're probably coming after him again. That would be my gut.
Ryan Brown, our guest. When I see LSU on paper, I don't see a bad team. Depth-wise, I see a roster that still has talent and then has been supplemented through the transfer portal. That being said, I don't have high expectations for LSU this year overall. Where should expectations be set for Brian Kelly in year one? I'm thinking this as he's talking yesterday at the podium, and I mean, there's really no good answer, because we know what he was hired to do and why he left Notre Dame. And if he left Notre Dame for what he says he left for, then expectations should be very high in year number one for him.
What's interesting about that, though, is he left Notre Dame, and a lot of people say, yeah, he left Notre Dame because it's becoming increasingly difficult to recruit there. But if you look at what Marcus Freeman's doing right now, they're the number 2 recruiting class in the nation. So I find that really interesting. But on the LSU side of it, I mean, I guess Jaden Daniels is going to be the starter there, who was a guy that looked terrific as a freshman at Arizona State and has never progressed and maybe has even regressed a little bit. And the other thing that you got to factor in with Brian Kelly, who, by the way, I'm a fan of. I think Brian Kelly is an excellent football coach, and I think he can turn LSU back around and get them back to a championship level.
He's done it everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you look at every single stop. You go back to Grand Valley State, Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. He has won everywhere. And I mean, at Notre Dame, he had them, twice in the college football playoff, once in the national championship game back in the BCS days against Alabama. So they were a national contender. And that's, Notre Dame had not done that much since Lou Holtz. So, yeah, I think he's done it everywhere he's gone. But that bowl roster was very thin for them. I think they had like 35 guys on their bowl roster, 35 scholarship players, on their bowl roster. So you got to rebuild the depth, and that is no fast process. So I do think I'm kind of with you. I can think both these things at the same time. That Brian Kelly is an excellent coach, but I do think it's going to take some build time, and this is a tough division to build in. When you're talking about Nick Saban still killing it at Alabama, Jimbo Fisher trying to build Texas A&M, Lane Kiffin getting Ole Miss to a 10-win season, Mike Leach. I mean, it's a difficult division to build in right now.
Hey, congrats on all the success. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask a Missouri question. You get a third defensive coordinator in 3 years. Doesn't seem like a path to develop anything consistently there. Are they looking for a new coach after this year, not a new coordinator?
Yeah, Paul, I was not sold on Drinkwitz. Appalachian State is a good college football program, but he had that job 1 year. And he was following Scott Satterfield, who cashed in to take the Louisville job. And Satterfield had built that program up. Drinkwitz takes it 1 year. I think they were 12-2. And you hire him. And those are always, I compare those hires to like the college basketball job that's open, and they hire the guy that got hot in the NCAA tournament. And they ignore the fact that, he'd had like 400 or 500 seasons before that, but he got hot in the NCAA tournament. I felt like that hire with Drinkwitz. So I've never been a big fan of that hire. And I could definitely see a path to what you just asked me, that it's not coordinators anymore, that it is him on the way out. And if you go look at their schedule, you could see a path to a 4-8, 5-7 type of year that I think would end it for him there.
Ryan Brown, Next Round Live is the show you can catch on any social media platform. Just search it out there. Mornings, 9 a.m. Central. And you just surpassed a year, right? Congratulations on that. Launching last year at this time, I believe, at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, this was our first big launch at SEC Media Days. We started our daily show August 16th of last year. And I do not say this just because I'm on this show. You guys know this to be true. We probably never do this without seeing you guys do it first. So I really appreciate you guys being trailblazers there and showing us how it was done.
Hey, man. We certainly appreciate all you did for us as well throughout that transition period. And in perfect tone and how things would go to celebrate, their internet dropped out yesterday.
Yeah.
so
congratulations on your recovery.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. We burned up a computer back at the studio in Birmingham, and we're only 2.5 hours away in Atlanta, so not much you can do about that. But hey, we fought through. We duct taped it together. We went Apollo 13, got it to the ground, and we were back fine today.
Hey, man, appreciate the time, and we'll catch up soon. Tell everybody we said hello.
Thanks.
All right, boys. Take care. Good talking with you.
Yeah, man. You too. There's Ryan Brown. Ryan Brown Live on Twitter. Next Round Live. The show coming up. We'll go back down to SEC Media Days. Quarterback Mike Wright for the Vanderbilt Commodores named the starter today at SEC Media Days. That's next on OutKick 360. Glad you're with us. Our SEC coverage continues here on OutKick 360 and across the OutKick network. PK will be back with us momentarily. Hutton with you, joined by Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright here on the program. Mike, great to have you on, man.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here. It's an amazing opportunity. I'm extremely excited. I'm around all these great people, and I'm just so happy to be here. It's a level of excitement. So you might catch me smiling a little bit too much now.
Well, I would be smiling too, just based on continuity alone. I mean, you finally have an offensive coordinator that you finished the season with that's back. I mean, there is some familiarity there that's got to be helpful with Joey being there.
Yeah, and I think Coach Lynch has done an amazing job as far as preparing us throughout this off season. That was a level of focus for us, and especially as an offense, and moving forward, and just going back and looking at film and finding ways where we can clean up, and just finding ways on where we should get better. And so that's been the level of emphasis for us. Our objective this year is playing at the highest level as a team. We have so much potential as a team, and we're going to tap into it. And best believe that's our goal, and that's what we're going to do.
Also, I mean, just year one to year two with Clark Lee. I mean, the familiarity, you're not having to learn each other. Certainly you're always trying to gain more trust, but you don't have to do that with a blank slate now. That's also extremely beneficial going into year two.
Yeah, right. You skip introductions. There's no more, hey, how you doing? I'm Mike Wright. How you doing? I'm Coach Lee. You skip all that, and then it just becomes, like you said, building that trust up and building relationships. And you're not learning a different system. You're not learning a different offense. You're not learning a different defense. So that's why everybody's extremely excited, because we're learning the same stuff, and we're just moving fast. So it allows you to play faster when you're just keeping the same system, keeping the same terminology. At that point, all it is just improving it. So.
Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright, our guest on OutKick 360. We've had the discussion on the show in the past, Mike. I'm not sure if momentum carries over to finish a season. Like I don't believe in a bowl win carrying over to the next season. Rosters turn over quite a bit, but in Vandy's case, and especially in your case, you're able to start 5 of the last 6 games. Is there momentum in that you can carry over regardless of result?
Yeah, I think different from momentum is just progress. I think that's what we're doing as a football team and as an organization. I think when there's a level of progression, when you can feel yourself getting better, when you can see the team getting better, that's our momentum in a sense. So I think, as you kind of stated, in the back end of the season, we start having more success on defense, more success on offense, more success in the special teams game. And so that, in a sense, that momentum is really just progress, and us growing as a team, and us growing as a unit. So as far as the carryover, is still there, and we want to just keep tapping into it. We want to keep increasing, we want to keep building, and so that's what we're going to do.
So you certainly live in Nashville, just like I do. You're from Atlanta, though,
right?
So you've gone from home to home here for SEC Media Days,
right? And it's always a different feeling, and it's a great feeling just to be back home. And in a sense, you always kind of carry your city with you. So I'm here representing my city. Saw people I went to high school with earlier down there and downstairs. Got a chance to see my family, see my 2 sisters, Maya and Ava, see my mom, see my dad. And so, I mean, like you said, I'm back here in Atlanta. I'm feeling good. You can quote me on this, and I'll say this anywhere. This is the greatest city in the world. It's the greatest city in the world. I mean, I love this city. I love everything that it's done for me. So it's an amazing opportunity.
It's home, right? I mean, that defines it right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
hey, tell me about this trip to Disney.
My goodness!
With a few of your teammates, what brought this about? I don't know the backstory here.
No, yeah, I got you. So we went down there. So like you said, me and a couple of teammates, my brother, Taco Wright, Anthony Orgy, and Alex Brown, we took a trip to Disney. And so like you said, we're having fun down there, riding roller coasters, just a chance to kind of step away before everything kind of gets to jumping. And as we're walking out, Jack Lee, Coach Lee's son, he said, Mike. And me, I'm just like, okay, we're at Disney. There's 1,000 mics here. But no, Coach Lee boys. And so like we saw Coach Lee, and it's a small world. I hate to use the cliche, but it's a small world. Coach Lee and all his family was down there. And we chatted for about 15, 20 minutes in the middle of the park in front of everybody. Didn't care who could hear our conversation or anything, but that's a testament to who Coach Lee is. I mean, we're a part of, he's there with his family. We're a part of his family too. And so it's just that level of relationship, that level of love that's there. It was amazing. It was amazing for us to be down there and to run into him completely surprised, and it made that trip even more better. So
I wonder, in a way, is it like you remember the feeling of like elementary, middle school, if you saw your teacher anywhere
right.
but school? It was like a
Right.
weird feeling, like, do I speak? It's a little awkward. Is it the
See,
same way with him?
absolutely not. Because let me tell you something. So at Disney's pretty high tech, and I didn't realize that. I'm thinking
Yeah.
this is just right. So we set off the meter as far as noise. So security had to come tell us, hey, we thought there was something happening because there's so much noise, and because we were like, that's how excited we were to see each other, and hugs, and hey, what ride did you ride? What did you do? What did you do? What did you do? And so oh no, it was nothing like that. It's like I said, Coach Lee, he's a player's coach. It's easy to play for a guy who cares about you and who you care about. So that level of will, that level of determination to go out there and give it everything you got is different when you know the guy you're playing for is actually in your corner and you're just not a number on the board. So,
What's the best ride you guys rode at Disney?
oh my goodness. So the Raptor was top notch
Okay.
in Jurassic Park, and then those are my two favorite ones right there. Those two right there.
Did this park also have the Harry Potter ride? You know what I'm talking about?
So Anthony Orji, our starting linebacker, he's the biggest Harry Potter fan ever.
Okay.
I'll go out on a limb saying I am nowhere near a big Harry Potter fan. I've seen maybe one movie, but he's convinced me to buy 4 wands. We rode the Harry Potter ride 3 times, and I didn't try butterbeer until I got there, and I would get it every single time I go. So we rode. We spent a lot of time in Harry Potter land for sure.
So our show, we were out in LA for the Super Bowl, and
Right,
they've got
yep.
Universal there. And I don't know if it's the same ride or not. I'm assuming it is, but you feel like you're on a broomstick. You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? Like
Yes.
that was the sensation of that, and how they like trick your mind into feeling like you're on a broomstick is crazy to me.
So my feet are dangling in the air, and for me, I kind of like to feel planted at all times. But so it was definitely an experience. You kind of feel like you're there, and it was just a fun trip. It was a fun trip for us. Amazing just to get closer with just brothers on the team, and like you said, we were running into Coach Lee, and so it was a good trip. It was a great trip for us, but now it's like, all right, we're ready to work. I mean, that's kind of like our little essential break. Just because just time just to step away. You need that mental cleanse, but now it's all ball. I mean, we're ready to go. I mean, that's stories we'll tell our kids and their kids about it. So I'm ready to go now, though.
Mike Wright, our guest. Mike, how do you go from a quarterback that's battling for playing time? We mentioned it earlier in this chat, just trying to earn the respect of a new head coach and a coordinator change and different things, to now being the leader of the offense and trying to establish your tone, your voice with that group.
Right. Well, one thing that I like to focus on is just, controlling what you can control. Whenever my number is called, I'm gonna make sure I get it everything I got. I mean, I prepare no matter if I'm the guy, if I'm not the guy, if I'm third, fourth, 1, 2, it doesn't matter. I'm prepared like I am the guy. And so that level of hard work, that level of leadership, it doesn't change. It's just about when your number gets called. And that's the same for SEALs. That's the same for the new guys coming in. That's our identity as a quarterback room. No matter when your number is called, the level of preparation is there. Everybody prepares as if they're going to take the first snap. So that way there's no, okay, I don't know what's going on. There's no drop off. That's who we are as a quarterback room. That's our identity. So now it's just, I will take the first snap. That's the only difference. And so, but like you said, that level of leadership, that doesn't change. I've always kind of been a leader on the team. I've always kind of wanted to, guide the team in the right direction, in the direction I know that we can go, just because I can see where we can go. So that's why I think everybody in the mood in our facility, the mood in our organization, the different mindset, the attitude that we're bringing this year, it's different because we know what we can tap into.
Does the QB1 get first dibs on Coach Lynch's candy stash in the drawer?
So that is an amazing question. So I eat candy all day long. I can tell you about any type of candy. I can tell you about anything. So can Coach Lynch. So whenever we go in there and watch film, how normal people would, take a bottle of water and drink film, drink water. No, we eat Sour Patch Kids when we watch film. So
All right.
he's the only person in that facility I know who can maybe give me some competition as far as how much candy I eat, but not yet.
I say I'm a Jolly Rancher. I'm going Jolly Rancher over
I'm
Sour
with you.
Patch Kid.
That's
Yeah.
long. That's long lasting. That's long lasting. I like it.
Hey, finally, not a bad way to start the season if you have to start on the road. You guys in week 0, it sounds like a high school week 0,
Right.
at Hawaii. That doesn't suck.
Yeah, I know. We got to go all the way out to yeah, I know that'd be an exciting trip. That'd be a good trip for us and our team. I know a lot of guys haven't been anywhere near Hawaii, so that'd be an experience. That'd be something that we'll talk about forever. And like you said, we have week 0, so we understand that we had the first game of college football, and we're embracing that challenge. We're embracing that role for us and as a team and as a program. So we're excited. We'll take that flight out there. And enjoy our time and, head back home and essentially with smiles on our face. So
Mike Wright has been our guest. Mike, good to catch up with you, man. Enjoy the day back home as you make the rounds there at the College Football Hall of Fame. And we will catch up during the season here in Nashville.
That sounds good. I'll have to come see you.
All right. That sounds great, man. There's Mike Wright, quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores. OutKick 360 rolls on. I had the chance to catch up with Mike earlier this morning as they got boots on the ground extremely early this morning, thanks to Vandy for hooking us up with the QB. They will sit us down with Clark Lee later in today's show, the head coach. Really nice young man there, talking with him.
Cool.
And now he's got the reins of the offense. They officially named him the starter. And that's something we'll bring up with head coach Clark Lee a bit later in today's show. But starting on the road against Hawaii, they need to win early because, man, that schedule, it's brutal for everyone. But Vandy's on a 21-game SEC losing streak right now. It's been a while, and any win would help build some momentum towards building on the future of whatever Clark Lee's trying to do this year.
They've lost to some bad non-SEC schools along the way there, too. So he's a slight guy there. You hope he withstands what's being sent at him by SEC schools and whoever else.
Yeah, quite the athlete. Extremely mobile and fun to watch whenever he decides to tuck and run. Now, one of his offensive teammates we also had the chance to visit with earlier today. The Vanderbilt Commodores making the rounds in Atlanta. Welcome back to OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. Joined by tight end Ben Bresnahan, senior for the Commodores. Ben, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Jonathan. Thanks for having me today.
First time having the same offensive coordinator in back-to-back seasons. As a guy who's asked to block and receive, I mean, you have to feel a little bit of continuity there, don't you?
Definitely. And yeah, as you said, first coordinator back-to-back season, which is awesome. And, really excited about what Coach Lynch has in store for us this year. We're really head and shoulders over like where we were at last year. And so really excited to, get camp started up and keep moving forward and keep growing as a unit on the offensive side of the ball, and looking forward to week 0 with Hawaii.
So you, in spring last year and moving forward, they're trying to get the install in.
Yeah.
Can you explain for me, like, the difference in a full off season now, knowing the coaching staff, knowing how they want things done and technique and just the play calls, and how there's a rhythm and flow to things that would seem a bit different?
Definitely is that rhythm there, and just that learning curve is so much easier after going into year 2, because you don't have to learn, the new all the new names for stuff and where to line up and all this, the little things that people always don't think about, but it takes a little bit of time to install in. So it's really great to be able to already know that from last year and be able to do that so quickly and just not even think about it. And also having that relationship with the QBs too, and really excited for spring ball. It was great. We really were able to open up the playbook with Coach Lynch, and so that's been awesome. And then now going to summer ball, we've been able to really work with each other and just getting on the same page, on all sides or all facets of the offensive side of the ball. So it's been great there.
Tight end Ben Bresnahan, our guest here on OutKick 360. You explored the possibility of the NFL draft a few months back. What motivated you to return?
I did. Yeah, that was definitely on the table. And really it was talking with Coach Lee, Coach Lynch, and Coach Lustig, and really getting their kind of viewpoint, and really seeing what was best for me. And that's what I really appreciated from them, was like, if you want to go to the NFL, you can, and that's what's best for you and this program, overall. But then we'd love to have you back if you think that's what's best for you. And just being able to talk with them and being able to kind of come back and really have confidence in what Coach Lee and Coach Lynch and Coach Lustig, where they really bring this program. And also with the brotherhood that we have on the team too. I'm really excited to be back in the locker room with the guys. So really excited for that going into.
So if the NBA, if a player wants to get the toe in the water and figure out where he may go, there's a process in place there. But beyond just talking with your college coaches, what are things that you can do to kind of gauge whether or not you're making the right call with the NFL?
Definitely, that's where I went to for the most part,
Okay.
because they're able to have that more of a kind of talk with them about it, other than just me with the direct contact.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so that's definitely kind of how the route that I took, and really appreciate that kind of or letting me know kind of what it's looking like and what the best decision was.
For me, if I was making the decision and it was literally 50-50, and I'm playing at Vandy and you're going into a senior year where you're trying to get over the hump. I mean, you've put in a lot of work, not much result in the win-loss column last year. I would want to see that through. I would want to see the first SEC victory in a while. Is that something you also consider?
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously it's something to think about, but really I don't. And I'm just really excited to, get on the field with the boys this year with, this team with the Coach Lee's put together this year, and really excited just to see what we can do. Because, our goal this year is to play at the highest level as a team together. So whether it is, whatever that looks like, we're going to try to reach for that and really get there and play the best ball that we've probably ever played, going into the season.
Where is your go-to spot for dinner in Nashville? You live off campus, I believe, right?
Yeah, I do. They treat us really nice at the facility all the time, and you don't have to pay too much money to go over there at all. So that's really the great spot. But then, I've gotten into. I mean, I don't want to be stereotypical, but I've been doing a little internship this summer right by there. There's a Hattie B's over there too.
Oh yeah.
So little Hattie B's grilled chicken sandwich, and that's been awesome. So that's always been a great choice for mine.
Oh, so no Cane Prime or Ruth Chris. You're going straight hot chicken.
I like the hot chicken, but also, I mean, yeah, definitely the steak is, go to as well. Me and actually our buddy Joel, their tight end, senior tight end, we always have a little rating of the steak on Friday night before game. We always do that because we always have a couple before the games on Saturday. But yeah.
What's the day like? Do you have your schedule in front of you? Do you know like what the gauntlet of media and the different rooms you're popping into there?
Don't really know where the rooms exactly are. Kind of figure that out on the fly, but definitely, I mean, have at least a little sheet of what kind of in general what we're doing. So
Ben Bresnahan, our guest, man, good to catch up with you. Best of luck with everything getting going here for the season. Stay healthy first and foremost, and we'll be tuned in at the end of next month as you guys head to Hawaii.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, man. Same here. There's Ben Bresnahan on OutKick 360. 6th and Peabody, our location, our studio here at the Distillery and Brewery, downtown Nashville, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Paul, people ask us, where's 6th and Peabody?
Peabody and 6th.
Yeah.
It's over behind the Music City Center, near those two Titans murals.
We love it. We love it. They have the private event going on and everything.
I know. It's a little bit different atmosphere.
Still open to the
than
public
typical.
if you're in the Middle Tennessee area. But, yeah, the different vibe.
Yeah.
A more corporate vibe.
Yeah.
Today.
Not, you can't let my hair down here today.
Hey, yeah.
I got to button it up.
Hey, I saw a live old track and field meet that tripped as he's covering the race and fell into the course.
In somebody's way?
Yeah.
Oh, dear God.
So
I mean, did they have to restart the race?
I don't know. I haven't been able to. I've only seen the video, not the full story here. But he's like he has his back turned to the participants in this It's a 3,000 meter steeplechase, and he's getting a shot of someone, and then the other participants have to go around him as he stumbles into the track. And I thought of Paul because this ties into our trip to New York, 2014, I think, maybe a year after that, at the Super Bowl, where a producer tripped and fell into Paul, and I mean,
push this guy off.
Paul
Me. He
asked,
said, "Get
Paul,
the hell off of me!"
He
right?
acted like the guy did it on purpose, and I remember,
Don't
man,
fall.
that
Don't fall.
was hard.
Look, this comes a little bit from my dad, but the solution here is don't fall.
Don't fall. But also, it was tough in that. And we were jam-packed in there.
I mean, I
We were
navigated the place
jam-packed in
all
there.
week, and I didn't fall once. You navigated it. Chad navigated it. We didn't fall once all week. We had
I
a
didn't have to stand
producer
very
with
often.
us who is a clumsy fool,
No,
and
we
he didn't fall
We
once.
didn't on that trip.
He wasn't with us?
No, I was playing engineer and producer and host that day.
And I know you got double pay for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the race. We've got it pulled up here if the internet will buffer. But the cameraman on the track and then the
Internet
runners,
buffer.
the cameramen
buffer.
have to go all the way around the participants.
Here it comes.
It's quite the
There it was, not
quite
buffer.
the ordeal.
That's a great shot. Of
Hit
it,
us
not
up on
buffer.
Twitter at OutKick360. Home run derby last night. We love it. And if it was going into the softball game, you can keep the home run derby on as long as you want. But it was going into the captain, and Paul and I discussed earlier. We want to get that derby over with, man. I think they were trying to speed it up. They had 2 or 3 overtime sessions.
They should have showed the captain
derby
first.
Should
Also,
have
I don't know. They should have showed the captain first and then the home run derby. I don't know about the getting extra time for 2 long homers, because a couple of the guys said like they're not interested in long homers. They just want to get the ball out. So I don't know. Should you be rewarded for hitting 2 440s
I think
with
they've-
extra time?
I think they've tweaked it. They've made it. They've kept it. It's hard to screw up a home run derby, but they've kept it simple. Like they've changed the rules a bit, but it's still simple to figure out. Used to is like you have 10 outs.
Yeah.
Right. You get once you miss on 10 homers or swings, you're out.
I think setting the clock and letting them go is fine. I don't know that
I like
you
the
need
clock
a
and I like the
bonus.
bracket. I like the bracket matchup. We get the other guy sitting there watching, and then you have the chance at these.
Yeah, but there's an element of
tiebreakers.
luck to who you draw in the bracket. And I was surprised Alonso wasn't the number 1 seed.
I thought he was.
He
I had
takes
no
it
idea.
too seriously almost. Like
I love it. It would be different if he was doing it for show. Like if Bryson DeChambeau did that, I would think he's playing up the world's longest drive thing. Alonso's into it, but I don't think he's doing it. It's like he doesn't play that up when I watch him with the Mets.
No, it's
right?
not fake.
But he's
But
getting his legs
it's supposed
loose
to be a
on
lighthearted
squat.
event.
But
But it's also like in the dugout, like
I know,
concentrating harder than people concentrate for the SATs or their board exams.
But that's the element of what the dunk contest is missing. A guy that it means something. It doesn't have to be a star. It needs to be a winner that wants to come back and then break the record of how many wins you have in a dunk contest. Like that, and then that fuels competition with the younger
dunk
stars.
contest being judged the way it is with everybody throwing up 9s and 10s all the time. That's what ruins the dunk contest.
What in that and the fact that we've literally seen everything. At some point, a man cannot jump over 5 cars, maybe 4.
Exactly.
You know,
That's why take it away for a while, but they can't do that.
But the Derby is the best of the exhibition nights. We have the All-Star game tonight. I'll tune in and tune out, but I'll stick through a majority of a home run derby.
I'll stick through the majority tonight. I'm going to dinner at 6:30. So the game I'm presuming starts at 7. So I'll tune in probably at 8.
How many years straight has the AL won? It's
A lot.
20? Feels like 20?
A lot. Enough for me to act like it matters and rub Chad's nose in.
Well, I mean, at one point they were.
At one point it did matter, even
Yeah.
though it was really stupid.
It's important because it counts. Whatever the slogan was for the All-Star game.
So I don't know if they bounce back and forth now, or if they just give it to the better team, which is how it should work. If you have a better regular season, the team that has a better regular season that winds up in the World Series should host more games in the World Series. Pretty simple.
You would think it would work out that way. Aaron Murray about to join us, the former Georgia quarterback and the SEC's all-time leading passer. He joins us next, and we'll discuss about many things, but first and foremost, the returning national champion Georgia Bulldogs and their championship quarterback that does not get much hype this preseason. Glad you're with us. OutKick 360 rolls on. Final hour of the Tuesday edition. We've been talking SEC Media Days and more. We're here in Nashville. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. We'll check back in Atlanta in about 20 minutes or so. Clark Lee, head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores, will join us. Right now, though, the SEC's all-time leading passer is Aaron Murray, former Georgia quarterback, joins us on OutKick 360. Aaron, we appreciate the time, man. Hope things are well.
Yeah, man. It's always nice when I see media days are in Atlanta. I live about 15 minutes or so from that Hall of Fame. So quick trip back and forth. It's been a good start. I guess not as exciting as it was last year with Nick Saban's comments about obviously how much his quarterback was making, and then the massive news of Texas Oklahoma joining. But we're only on day 2, so a couple more days. So you never know what could happen. But no, it's been great so far.
You guys have a cool Players Lounge kickoff party that's taking place this weekend at the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're excited. We got, I think, 60, 70 of the top student athletes from 5 universities here in the Southeast, Clemson, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia. I also have 2 more events, and one in Austin and one in Oklahoma for those schools out there. And super excited. It's going to be a fun day of just a fan and player engagement. We'll do certain different activities at the Hall of Fame. For those who've never been to the Hall of Fame here in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, it is an awesome place to spend the afternoon with your kids, with your friends, your loved ones, whoever. And like I said, we're gonna have some of the best athletes in the country there, just hanging out, having a good time. You can compete against them in quarterback challenges, kickoffs, Madden tournaments, pool tournaments, and some other events throughout the day, food, drink, all that. I got some really cool guest speakers as well. So make sure you check us out at the Players Lounge, and you can get your tickets to the event. It should be an awesome afternoon this Saturday.
And we're retweeting the information at OutKick 360 there if you're interested in the event in Atlanta. Aaron Murray, our guest, the top quarterback in so many different categories in Georgia history. I wrote a column a couple weeks ago, Aaron, about Stetson Bennett, and I said all of these season previews, looking ahead to what 2022 will be in the regular season, I said, if the number one storyline, not just in the SEC, but nationwide, isn't Stetson Bennett with the chance to repeat as a national championship winning quarterback. I mean, that doesn't happen often because the guy normally goes and wins a title and then he's in the NFL the next season. Here's Stetson Bennett with a chance to go back-to-back, and the backstory that he has to get to the moment that he had last year, he's still overlooked, and I don't understand why the country isn't behind that story. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I think it's because, especially the fan base of Georgia, you get so heavily invested with recruiting. Recruiting's a big deal, and we all know it. I mean, we follow these kids when they're freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors in high school, and we all care about how many stars they have to the name, and we got this 4-star kid or this 5-star kid, especially at the quarterback position. Because if you got the that type of player, the Mannings of the world, as we all saw what happened with Texas, guys start to follow him. Receivers start to come, tight ends and offensive linemen, they all kind of gravitate once you get that 4- and 5-star guy. So fans are invested, and we have a top dude. We have someone that's going to be able to come in, start as a freshman, start as a sophomore. They're going to be our guy. They're going to be a Heisman type quarterback. They're going to lead us to a championship. And Stetson doesn't fit that mold. Stetson was not heavily recruited, obviously came to Georgia, left Georgia as a walk-on, came back, earned a scholarship, was really like the 4th or 5th string quarterback, was then given the job, won it, really had I thought a pretty good season his first year. He definitely made some mistakes, definitely some deep ball inaccuracies, but I thought made some massive strides forward heading into last season. This is still with really not an opportunity to be the guy in the offseason. Never got any reps for the first team in spring and summer, fall camp, barely got any number 2 reps really. And then all of a sudden you're just giving the keys to the car and say, hey, go win some football games for us. So to me, what he's done with less when it comes to reps, when it comes to, last year, a very young and inexperienced receiving core with a good running game, not a great running game, a good running game. I'm not gonna say it was a bad one, but it wasn't kind of the elite running game that we've been accustomed to seeing Georgia have. And yes, he did benefit from one of the best defenses we've seen in the past 10, 15 plus years. I mean, it was absolutely amazing what we saw on that side of the football, but still he was very accurate. He took care of the football. He used his legs when he needed to. He was the MVP in both the game versus Michigan and in the national championship. He made some big time plays in those games. So yes, I'm excited to see what he can do with the full offseason of getting all the necessary timing down with his receivers and actually having receivers that are a little bit more experience within the system. The tight ends are extremely experienced and look pretty darn good. He has some weapons around him. I think this is a team this year that could be pretty explosive on that side of the football. And yeah, I hope Stetson loves it. And he loves it. He's a massive chip on his shoulder. He loves all this negativity that's surrounding him still. I hope he goes out there and shuts up the critics and throws like 30 plus touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how he hasn't already. And just to piggyback off that, like, I don't think this is an over exaggeration. If he does it again, he's getting a statue in Athens. Like that's the pedestal. I mean, you would know what it's like to be the star quarterback. This dude's going to have a statue next to Kirby Smart's statue for winning the title. I mean, that's just what happens in the SEC. And the former walk-on's going to be immortalized in that way, but yet it's just kind of glossed over because he's not the Heisman finalist. It's a really strange scenario that we don't see often, that we beg for, and it's happening right here in front of our eyes.
But he doesn't command the room either.
Well, that's fair too. Yeah.
He doesn't like the attention. He doesn't like walking in and everyone asking for pictures and autographs. That's not him. Like, he's just not used to that world. He's not a big guy. Like I said, he doesn't like walk in the room and everyone's like, oh my God, Stetson Bennett's here. It's just, that's not his personality. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a guy that shows up to work every single day, works his tail off, demands perfection from himself, from his teammates. Guys on the team respect him. The coaching staff respects him. There's a reason why Kirby Smart stayed with Stetson even when JT came back healthy. He saw the beat and the pulse of his team and said this team is willing to follow Stetson. And people don't understand that, like, part of being a quarterback isn't necessarily, can I throw the ball 70 yards? Can I run a 4.4? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can you make guys around you better? Can you put guys in a position to succeed around you? And I bring up Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's last few years in the NFL, could throw the ball 40, 45 yards. I mean, he admitted it. I mean, he just did not have the same arm strength as he did early on, and definitely was probably had the weakest arm in the NFL. If you would go out there and just do a combine with all the NFL quarterbacks, you would say, who would pick Peyton Manning to be their starting quarterback? Yet he won a Super Bowl late in his career. You know why? Because he outworked everyone and because he made everyone around him better. He put everyone else in a better situation because of the way he prepared. And that's what Stetson does. And not saying Stetson can't make all the throws. I think Stetson can make every throw you possibly want. I think his mobility, like I said earlier, is tremendous. But Stetson knows how to make the left tackle to the right tackle to the offensive, the running back to the receivers to the tight ends play to a higher level, which makes the team better.
Former Georgia QB, college football analyst, Aaron Murray, our guest.
So you retweeted a list of the top 10 quarterbacks in the SEC. Unclear where. Oh, it's a 24/7 list. It had Stetson Bennett 8th. You modified it where you would have put, it sounded like, Bryce Young 1st, Will Levis 2nd, maybe Hendon Hooker 3rd, and you would have moved Stetson to 4th?
Yeah, I like Stetson in the top 5 for sure. I mean, he's the only one on that list that has a national championship trophy, and I keep hitting on the part, and I will continue to hit on this. I went to scrimmages. For the past few years, I'd go watch Georgia, whether it's spring or fall camp, and I'd go watch, and JT's getting the reps, Carson Beck's getting the reps, Brock Vanderbilt's getting the reps. All these guys are getting reps, and Stetson's just sitting there, just, all right, I'm here if you need me. Everyone goes in for like a mini halftime. Stetson stays out there with essentially the walk-ons and the freshmen and gets 10 minutes to get some opportunity to get some tape out there for the coaches, and then that's it. I mean, he literally had no opportunity to really compete for that job. JT gets hurt. Carson was going to be the guy. Carson really did not perform well there on Monday, Tuesday at practice. And they're like, okay, I guess we gotta give Stetson the job. And he goes out there, I believe it was versus UAB, throws 5 touchdowns. Like, okay, well, let's see what he can do as a full-time starter now. Like, what he did without a legitimate chance to be as comfortable as he needs to be in that offense is absolutely mind-blowing and crazy to sit back and see, knowing that how much it took for me to get ready first season, all the reps that I took with our starting receivers to feel very comfortable within that system. So yeah, I think Stetson, like I said, has all the tools, has the arm strength, has the mobility. The one thing that is a little bit of a red flag for me when you watch this game, he's a little bit too much of a risk taker at times. And the really good quarterbacks and the great quarterbacks have to have that mentality that you feel like you can make every single throw. You have to have that gunslinger mentality. You look at Patrick Mahomes, but Stetson also has to humble himself and know that he's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, he can't be rolling out to the right thinking he can throw across his body and be able to complete passes. You have to know when the defense won, when to get down, when to throw the ball away. These are some of the things that hopefully he went back, watched the film, learned from. If he can make those corrections this year, because they're going to need him to take care of the football. Yes, I think Stetson's definitely a top 5 quarterback in this league. And that's saying something. I mean, you look at that list, you could probably make a case for a lot of those guys to be in the top 5. It is a league stacked with quarterbacks this year. I'm super excited to see all of them play, but only one of them has a national championship right now.
Longer range Georgia quarterback question. How A, surprised were you, and B, disappointed were you or was Georgia when Arch Manning chose Texas?
Listen, to me, I thought he would have gone to Alabama. I know they had another kid committed there. I thought that would have been probably the best spot for him. I'm not completely surprised. I mean, you look at Georgia's room right now, and you look at Gunner, and you look at Carson, and you look at Brock. You're like, man, they got some really good quarterbacks that are in there. I always tell young quarterbacks, like, you shouldn't worry about who's ahead of you. You should always worry about who's behind you, because if the guy beats you out behind you, then you're out of luck. You got to hit that transfer portal. So there's nothing wrong with competition, but obviously when you look at Georgia and what they've built at that quarterback spot, it kind of worries you a little bit. And Georgia a little bit behind the times when it comes to putting top-tier talent in the NFL at the quarterback and receiving position. George Pickens is a phenomenal talent, but really did not perform to his I would say top capabilities these past few years at Georgia. They haven't had a first-round draft pick at the quarterback position since Matthew Stafford. They haven't had an elite receiver taken in a while either. You look at some of these other schools, and you look at what Sark did at Alabama with the quarterback spot, with the receiving position, and you kind of say, okay, if I want to go somewhere where I could be the guy possibly early, you have the opportunity at Texas. Georgia just needs to start putting better talent into the NFL when it comes to receivers and quarterbacks, in order to be able to sell that consistently to recruits down the line. And I think they have that talent in that locker room. I don't know if Stetson's going to be an NFL guy, but obviously he's a great college quarterback. But I do think a guy like Carson Beck, who I'm anticipating to be his number 2 quarterback and going to be the front runner to be the quarterback next season, he has all the tools you want, not only to succeed at this level, but I think at the NFL level as well. And plus they got some pretty good young receivers, guys like A.D. Mitchell, and then obviously that tight end group that are going to make a lot of noise here in the next couple of years as they get ready for the NFL as well.
We're visiting with Aaron Murray. Aaron, you were at Georgia when A.J. Green was suspended in the spring for selling his jersey, a signed jersey. And we are in an era now where we have Lane Kiffin yesterday proposing a salary cap for NIL, and Texas Tech is handing out $25,000 scholarships per player. The insanity with this is incredible. And that was 2010. It's not like I'm referencing something. You mentioned Manning earlier. You broke a lot of Peyton's records. It's not like I'm referencing the 90s here. I'm referencing literally a little over a decade ago.
Yeah, it's good for these kids. I wish I played now. That's for damn sure.
You know what? In fact, follow up that we Clay and I were on Radio Row one year. I forgot which one this was, but we had these wristbands. I don't know what company it was, but one of them, I'm sure they made a Georgia one. And I remember you coming by. You wanted one, but you wouldn't take it because you didn't want an NCAA violation. I mean, that was. I mean, and think about where we are now.
It's just crazy. I mean, you brought up AJ. Obviously, Todd Gurley got in trouble. I believe it was the year after I graduated from the University of Georgia, and it's just unfortunate. AJ lost four games to his final year at Georgia. I would have loved to have him for those 4 games. That's for sure. We started off that year 1-3. I guarantee if we had AJ Green, there's a good chance we could have been 4-0 for sure. So I'm happy for these kids. I'm a little bit concerned of the way that things are going with NIL. What it was intended to be, I was all for it. If you're a baller, you have an opportunity to go out there and get deals, whether it's with a local restaurant or car dealership, or if you're that big, maybe you get a deal with like Gatorade or Nike or, whatever. Like that is what NIL was supposed to be. what it's turned into now, where essentially these collectives are just getting money to pay players, and then obviously use that to then recruit players, whether it's to the transfer portal or it's the high school rankings, to me is taking it too far. That's not what NIL was intended to be. Obviously, these groups have found a way to bend the rules a little bit, or not even bend the rules. They're following the rules. They're not breaking any laws
Exactly.
here. But I just don't like it. I'm sorry. I don't like it. I like what it was intended to be. What it has turned to be now, I think has gone way, way, way too far. The rich will continue to get richer. Those schools that don't have those big support groups, these collectives, will continue to suffer and fall behind. And it's unfortunate. But it's kind of the direction we're heading in. It's you either have a group, a collective that can do what Texas Tech did and raise enough funds to pay the entire team, or you're going to lose players in the transfer portal and you're going to lose players in the recruiting process. And that's not what it should be.
I'm curious about the follow-up seasons to some good years we saw across the league from quarterbacks going into 2022. An example, and I'll tie in A.J. Green again. When you lost a talent like that, you're able to retool and you go on to the next guy that comes in and you've got a number one receiver, but not A.J. Green-like at Georgia. What is K.J. Jefferson up against? Traylon Burks is now playing for the Tennessee Titans. What is it like to try as the guy on campus to retool within an offense with a guy that you know is going to be there down in, down out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had an opportunity to cover KJ and that offense twice last year down the stretch in November. KJ, I think, was about a 75% completion guy. I mean, he was on fire. But you said anytime Traylon was one-on-one, you knew where the ball was going. And you could watch film of us back in 2010 with AJ. And anytime we lined up AJ backside, if I knew it was a single high safety, I'm taking my chance with AJ all day long. It's hey, one-on-one with AJ, we're going with it. And Traylon was such a huge part of that offense, whether it was in the pass game, getting him jet sweeps, moving him around. Where Browse wanted to go with the football. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would too. So, KJ leaned on it as he should. Now it's like, all right, KJ, if you want to take an opportunity to take your game to the next level, how do you incorporate all your receivers? How do you then go to a guy that was just focused on working on one side of the field to being able to see the entire field, being able to see safeties rotate, being able to work your eyes from right to left and left to right. So if he's able to do that with his size, with his ability to throw the football and his ability to run, Arkansas can continue to win games and continue to make an impact on a very tough division. But, I'm a little bit worried about Arkansas, honestly. You look at, obviously losing Traylon, you look at what they lost at the linebacker position. You look at some of the guys that transferred to LSU in the secondary, and I know they hit the portal pretty good themselves. But this is a team to me that may take a step back, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sam Pittman has built this team for success for a long, long time. I love him as a head coach, but I just think it's going to be hard to replicate what they did last year. I think it's going to be a little bit hard for KJ to replicate what he did towards the end of last season as well. I honestly thought the way November and December played out, if I was KJ, I would have taken a chance of going to the NFL. With the group of quarterbacks that were leaving to go to the draft, when you look at the success of a guy like Jalen Hurts there at Philadelphia, to me, he reminds me a lot of Jalen. I think he's possibly a better player than Jalen, bigger, stronger, faster, and I think a bigger arm. So, I would have taken my chance last year knowing that I'm not going to have, Traylon Burks this year.
Final thing for you on the way out. I know you're doing great things as an analyst, and our listeners and viewers can certainly see it here. But you did, after your NFL career, play in the Alliance and then the XFL briefly before those leagues folded. Did you consider the USFL?
No, I'm done.
You're done?
No. Yeah, no, the body was done. XFL was awesome. I'll tell you what, the XFL did it right. I'm excited to see, what they do coming back next year. The way they treat the players, the coaches, the facilities, everything was top notch. And I know the Rock's going to do a hell of a job when you're going. So it was unfortunate that league just unfortunate, with the pandemic hitting. But in the middle, beginning of the pandemic, I had a son. So now, daddy duty, and
okay.
I love playing golf too much. So
and you've got cool events like later this weekend at the College Football Hall of Fame, which we've retweeted. Great catching up with you, man. We appreciate the time. Great perspective as always. We knew it would be, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
I appreciate it. Y'all have a great week.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Same to you. There's Aaron Murray, former Georgia quarterback, all-time leading passer in the SEC. He's done it in yards and touchdown passes. Phenomenal career. And only 31. That's why I bring up the USFL, because he tried to keep it going, and now he's doing great things in the media. Coming up, Clark Lee joins us, head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores, next on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 continues from 6th and Peabody. Jonathan Hutton with you. Paul Koharski alongside. Chad Withrow with the week off. He's back with us on Monday. He's missing a busy week. SEC Media Days going on in Atlanta, and we head back down to Atlanta for the OutKick setup. Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee joins us on the show. Coach, great to have you back on, man, and thank you for making time for us.
Awesome to be with you. I just wish I was sitting there in studio, to be honest with you.
We've got plenty of options here, there in Atlanta as well. So make it a quick trip, and you can join us tomorrow if you'd like.
There we go. I like it.
Hey, I watched your address earlier this morning in the big room, the main podium. How much time did you put into that? Because it was very thought out. I could tell that you were being very deliberate with some of the sentences that you used.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an opportunity for me to share the message that I want to share about where we are as a program. And I don't want to leave it to chance that, I'm going to get asked the questions that I want to be asked. It gives me an opportunity to talk about it. So I take time. I mean, I think it's part of my job. My responsibility building a program is to be intentional with words and to make sure that people, the Vanderbilt community, our team, our staff, they all hear the same message. And so, yeah, we spent time on that. I spent some time on that, but not too much. I've had a chance that we were in Disney World. I've been on a little history vacation with my son. I've done some other things too this summer.
Yeah, and we're going to have your quarterback on a bit later in the show, Mike Wright. But you ran into him at Disney World, I think.
It was a bizarre situation, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. We actually got in trouble. So he was with a few of his teammates, and security came out because I guess we were too loud when we were interacting, but we were excited. It was kind of one of those moments that caught us all off guard.
Is that when you told him that he was the starting quarterback, or
No.
or was it prior to that?
Prior to that,
Okay.
But yeah, certainly that would have probably delivered the same emotion from him.
Is it important that you tell the guys now ahead of practice starting to get into the regular season, and you wanted to put it to bed that you had a starting quarterback, a guy who was going to take the first snap?
It was important to us to do that at the end of spring. Part of that was just to alleviate the anxiety around wondering. And we all, there's obviously strategic advantage for team building to know who that person's going to be heading in the fall. But we're really deliberate about making sure that part of our covenants, one of our covenants is earn it every day. And Mike knows that he's got to continue to earn that. That's not something that's just going to be given to him. And Ken knows that it's still his to go after. And I want to really give credit to Ken Seals. I mean, we had a hard conversation with him after spring practice. And that's someone that I obviously care a tremendous amount about. But he didn't flinch. And I think anymore, the majority of people, when they face that level of adversity, they tend to steer right or steer left. But he determined himself to stay right on his course and be a great team leader for us, and again continue to compete for that job. So that gave us a chance at least to give them some peace of mind around what that role may be, to know where they're positioned, and also to give them a chance to focus on team building in the summer rather than competing with each other. And I've been pleased with both of their progress, both as players in their training this summer, but also as leaders and teammates.
I want to briefly pick up on that because, he played, we're discussing Kenny Sills, he played his freshman year. And then you enter the picture, and he's learning a new offense, trying to earn your respect, same as Mike Wright. And just look across the SEC and all the transfer portal movement at any position, but specifically quarterback. Yeah. And Sills decides to stick around. That's the unusual part for me, is that he didn't go into the portal.
Well, I think that's abnormal for this day and age, but I think it speaks to his character and his toughness and the belief in himself too. I mean, he's not returning just to martyr himself. He's returning to fight for what he wants. But he believes in our program. He believes in his teammates, and we'd be talking all day if the level of respect I have for him and how he's attacking it. And then also to recognize that a year ago that hard conversation was with Mike Wright. So you see a guy that continued to progress and to climb and to go after what he wanted. And he battled adversity a year ago, and for them both, and really the freshmen too. And it's about them being ready when their number's called, and you just never know when that'll be.
On the broader issue of team building, I'm really curious about how you're looking at some opponents that have really turned on the faucet in terms of the transfer portal. Others more conventionally, probably like you, with the traditional team building where you recruit and you let guys grow in your program. What do you think the chemistry difference is there where, what one team might be bringing guys up through the program and another team is splashing in a bunch of guys coming from disparate backgrounds and team experience?
Well, I think there's a lot unknown about kind of the new strategies around building teams through the portal and the lag effect of that, and so we feel like we're building this program to sustain success, and a part of that to us is recruiting and retaining a roster so that we can develop that roster, and we want retention to be a strategic advantage. And I didn't anticipate the level of transaction that would come to define kind of the landscape that we sit in, but I can't help but believe that doesn't create market differentiation for us. Like we are going to be unique, and it fits with who we are as a university and as a program. And so for me, it's just about being true to ourselves, being true to our identity. It will use the portal to plug holes in the roster to make sure that we're going to be as competitive as we can possibly be, but we're not going to lead with that as a way to build a roster, because we want sustained incremental growth that over time in a volatile market, I think will lead to a team that's can become a force in our conference.
What's the status of your facility building? I'm at a loss for words here. What the progress of your new projects?
Well, we've finally been kicked off our game field, and it's under construction right now. They're doing some work in the north end zone, so they can get started on what will cap that north end zone side of our field. That'll be the basketball practice facility and some luxury seats that'll be facing towards our stadium. And then after the season, they'll begin the tear down and the build on our south end zone. So it's all kind of lining up the way we wanted it to. It's exciting to see that process begin. I think all of us are anxiously awaiting, and I think if you would have given Candace and I a shovel and a pickaxe, we would have been over there starting the work ourselves. But I think patience is important right now. It's coming. We want to make sure that it's designed to not just be something that serves us in the short term, but be something that over time ages really well. And I think anytime you're going to start construction on a site that hasn't been touched in decades, you're going to find things that you got to adjust around too. But we'll have a great plan in the in between where we're dealing with facility loss because of the projects. We'll make sure we're taking care of our team and able to build a program through the process.
Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee, our guest on OutKick 360. Coach, I was thinking about this last night, and knowing that you had the podium this morning, and I was curious. So the winless streak right now, which partly you inherited in the SEC, is at 21 games. And from your perspective, do you address that? Do you use that as a motivating factor at all? Or do you approach it as if, we're out of sight, out of mind. I'm not going to make this a big deal to my roster during the offseason or going into the first conference game. You briefly touched on it this morning. I felt like you said the word necessary. Last year was necessary for the hardships that you guys went through. So I'm assuming you do talk about it with your team.
Well, what I was referencing when I said that is this idea that once you commit yourself totally to something, the universe aligns with you. So, when you're totally committed to building a program, when you're totally committed to the vision that Vanderbilt football is going to reach its potential, and we believe that potential to be great. Once you're totally committed to that, you're not victimized or sent off course by adversity. You understand that adversity is perfectly positioned for you. And so what you then have to do is shift and say, okay, what is this telling me about where we are and where we need to go? And so I don't see, though the year was painful, I don't see that adversity as being something that that takes us off course, I see that as being the course, right? If that makes sense. As far as your question, we don't spend any time. I mean, I don't even, it doesn't even enter my thought process, any kind of streak or any kind of, because our goal is not to win one SEC game. When we win games, we're going to celebrate them all the same, and we're going to shift our attention to the next opponent, and we will celebrate them. So don't worry about that. But
sure,
the goal then is, what is, we have to look at this from a bigger picture thought process of what is it that we're building. We want to build a dominant program in this league. Well, a dominant program in this league doesn't pay attention to one SEC game. A dominant program in this league pays attention to playing at its highest level. And whether you win or lose, you're learning and you're applying forward for continued growth. And so we just don't spend time on individual outcomes or things that we don't control. Obviously, we're going to focus perfectly on our team design and our play design and our execution. And again, hopefully over time we get a level of consistency and confidence where these topics don't come up. But I understand why they do. It's just we just don't spend a lot of time and attention on it, if that makes sense.
Long way between where you are and the dominant program that you want to be. So how do you kind of break it down into pieces where you get the first one that sets you on the course you want to be on?
It takes such a disciplined focus day in and day out. I can't wake up tomorrow and decide to be something outside the framework of the course that I've set moving forward. And so, every day we have to make sure that our developmental systems are optimized, that we are surrounding and immersing our players in an experience that's transformative. And again, we measure progress in every way. I mean, it's not just about how much someone run or bench presses or how fast they run, like is our team going to class? Are they paying attention to detail, taking pride in everything they do? Once you have people that value the experience they're part of, they're going to go further in actualizing the performance that we want long term. And young people are resilient. Young people want to be led by someone who has a vision for excellence at the highest level and that speaks that vision into existence every single day. And we don't spend time, we have a slide we start every team meeting, and it has it's a stage, there's confetti, it's got every bowl trophy accessible for an SEC team, including the SEC championship and the national championship. And we start intentionally that way because we want to create a vision for what we're after. And we don't want to make it ever about anything other than success at the highest level. We don't then turn from that slide and go, take 25-pound dumbbells and work on pressing them above our head to practice what it'll be like to lift those trophies. We shift our attention to what the next thing is that we need to do the right way to keep the march going towards, what the program vision is. And so it's a methodical process. It takes discipline. It takes focus. But again, it's part of the fun and the challenge. And I've got a team of guys that are excited for it, that believe in what we're doing. And to me, it just doesn't get better. I mean, I don't, I think when I go to work every day, I work with people that I care about. I get the chance to set a course for a program where our families are involved, and I am engaging with some of the brightest young people in our country, and I'm at a place that I believe in. And so I don't know that life gets better. And, over time, we'll build this thing into the program that we know it can be, but I'm enjoying every step of the way.
Former Vandy player and Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee, our guest on OutKick 360. I see the trip to Hawaii on the schedule to open up, and that makes sense. I mean, you have the trip to Hawaii against the Rainbows there, but Northern Illinois, the 2 group of 5 opponents, Coach, on the road, which gives them some added benefit in some way. I know, scheduling happens years in advance, but your schedule's already tough as it is, and now the group of 5s are on the road this year.
So it's all outside of the control. Obviously, we open at Hawaii, and that game is going to come down to a lot more than just the talent on the field. It's the maturity we have in preparation to be ready to throw the first punch, or how are we going to handle the travel? Are we going to be acclimated by the time we're playing? We see it as an opportunity, though. I thought one when in review of the season last year, and it doesn't take a head coach to figure this out, but we didn't start fast in any of the games we played last season. It was always slow out of the gate. Well, we have to get that redirected immediately, and the outcome of that first game hinges on that. I think there's also an opportunity in the trip where we have a chance to bond as a team, and that certainly can impact how we play in that first game. But I think that's also an experience that we can pull from moving forward as we evolve the team through the season. So you just constantly look at these issues and find the ways to see them as good things and positives and things you can build upon, and that's what we're going to do. That includes a trip up to Northern Illinois to play the defending MAC champion, and again, for us, it's just at some point you have to kind of release all those external factors and just have the discipline to focus on, are we doing what we need to do to become the best team that we can be? And I know that's cliche, but actualizing that mindset is really, really hard. And if we can do that, we have the pieces we need to be successful. But we cannot line up this fall and play two opponents. We can't play the opponent across the field, and we can't create an opponent on our sideline. We have to have all our systems focused on our best performance.
Well, and you've got year one behind you and laying that foundation and that message to get the buy-in that you want. Coach Clark Lea has been our guest. Thank you for the time. By the way, I was expecting more pinstripes this year. You went with the solid. I don't know if that was your decision, but it's same color scheme at least.
That's right. We still did the light colored suit. I wanted the conversation to be less around my suit and more around my program vision. So,
it was about the suit last year, to be honest. We were discussing that on the show.
That's right.
Hey, tell everyone we said hello. And by the way, if you want to pick up on the conversation, we have a seat open for you tomorrow in studio back here in Nashville.
I'll look forward to it. I'll be over there soon. Good to see you guys.
Thank you so much.
All right.
There's Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lea. Again, they opened the season, Paul, the dreaded week 0. They should just call it week 1, but they're the only game. The official kickoff to the college football season is in Hawaii. Vanderbilt on the road. And that will be right towards the end of August. So they're about to begin their practice to get everything ready.
Stadium that's soon to be torn down. And
with the hope that they get the Pro Bowl back.
Yeah.
It's been a few years since they've had that now.
That's not a good, it wasn't a good venue when I was there in the turn of the century. So I don't know that they've poured a lot of resources into that since.
At the turn of the century, the Nissan Stadium was one of the newer facilities.
Yeah.
Hey, hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. Our thanks to Clark Lea for joining us. Stick with us. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel as well, and on these great radio affiliates wherever you may be listening. Live coverage throughout the afternoon from SEC Media Days. This is OutKick 360. Been a fun show covering all things SEC. That will continue tomorrow. We're scheduled to be joined by Kentucky quarterback Will Levis on the program. Mr. College Football Tony Barnhart will be on the show as well. Always a great chat with him. Bill Hancock, the executive director of the College Football Playoff, one of the nicest, genuine guys in the game. He'll be with us tomorrow as well. It's going to be a fun show, and we're just getting started on the guest list. Frank Frangie, voice of the Jaguars, and others will be on the program. We started the show today, Paul, discussing with Trey Wallace Nick Saban's comments at the podium, and Trey was watching it live and said, man, I'll be honest with you guys, I was thinking about, is he going to be around in 5 years whenever all this expansion happens? Well, Trey, I don't know if he's responding to you. In fact, he's not. He's responding to other coaches around the conference. But Saban, who is one of two FBS coaches, 70 years old. The two oldest coaches are Nick Saban and Mack Brown. Mack Brown has him beat by a couple of months, I believe. Here's the quote from Saban. I love the relationships with the players. I love the competition, the preparation for the games. I just love it. This is on SEC Network. I wish you would ask all the other coaches who come up here, because they tell recruits, I'm going to retire. Ask them how they know I'm going to retire when all I think about is what I'm going to do if I retire, because I love what I'm doing now. So how am I going to be happy not coaching? Second oldest in the conference, by the way, is Mike Leach at 61. So if you're not a fan of Alabama, you're like, man, we just have to weather a couple more years of Saban, and then the Crimson Tide, they have to figure it out. Saban says, you know what? I'm not leaving.
I don't see him as a guy who would retire. I see him as a guy who would die without it.
Yeah.
You know, the two kind of classifications of people. You look at him and you think this guy is going to run out of gas or needs life without it. And then there's another classification, a guy that you feel like he would die without it. And I certainly, it's not like you know the people personally, but from the way they carry themselves, I would put Saban in that second class. I'm
No doubt.
Not surprised to hear him speak like that.
Well, the one that comes to mind for me is Paterno.
Yeah,
You know,
Paterno
as soon
was
as he
the
was
guy
out,
that
he was
died
dead.
without
I
it.
mean, and it's sad
And he
to
was
think
caught
about.
in scandal with it, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, he officially left the job and then was done, right, months later.
Very short order.
Yeah, and I look at it, you know, it's terrible to think about, but there are I mean, this goes on with relationships. You know, one of the two passes away, and then they lose that spark, and the other one is very near all that. Professions, not just with coaches,
Yep.
but you know, someone that has started from the ground and has built a business and then turns things over, and they're done with their life's work.
right, kind of feel purposeless.
Yeah, I'm with you. Saban is going to coach as long as he possibly can, and he's not just going to go hang out on the lake.
I look forward to retirement and travel and all of the things that come with it. I hope I'm set. I plan to be set up for all of that.
Well, he certainly is.
Yeah.
Saban.
Not to the level that Saban's set up for.
Oh, I
I'm not
know,
going
I
to
know.
go park a yacht like Daniel Snyder.
Mark Stoops is the second behind in terms of tenure for the league in Saban's hierarchy here. He's 55 years old. I mean, it's in a way, it's certainly not a 70-year-old's game, but it's not an old man's game either. If you start looking around and you think of the coaches have been around a while, but it's not like they're 60 years plus, right? It is a young man's game in many ways.
Well, especially with I think young guys are harder to relate to now.
Yeah.
The generation gap between the kids you're recruiting and you is harder than ever, I would imagine. And then the NIL and the off-season stuff and the extra layers of it. I know you're delegating some of that, but you got to have your finger on the pulse of more things than ever. I think it's got to be more exhausting than ever.
All-Star game tonight. We look forward to watching pieces of that. I'm not going to pretend that I'm sitting through all 9 innings.
We know who's winning that. Our
yeah,
league is
the
winning
AL.
that.
The AL will be winning that. They win every year. We're just thankful. At least we assume that it doesn't have anything to do with the postseason. But who knows?
It does not.
Who knows? We are back at it tomorrow. Full coverage from SEC Media Days. Doesn't end with the show here. You can go to OutKick.com for all of the headlines. Glenn Gilbo and Trey Wallace have you covered. Join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. We'll be live with SEC Media Days coverage for OutKick 360.
Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.